Praise the Lord and welcome to News and Views. I'm so glad you've tuned in with us tonight. We have a great program. We're going to be looking at many different news items that Muslims are making around the world today. And as usual, we have our wonderful and talented, not to mention handsome guest, Brother Hamoudi. Brother Hamoudi, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Brother Joseph. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I tell you, brave the snow and the cold and the wind. You're better than the postman.
Well, I don't know about that.
And Brother Hamoudi is going to be reading a story tonight. You know, there's a lot of things Muslims call in and say, now, why do you always share things about Muslims? Well, one of the reasons is because there's a lot of information that is not shared, not picked up, Brother Hamoudi, by a lot of the main news agencies about Muslims and about Islam. I believe it's because of an agenda that secular media does not want to portray Islam in a bad light. We at News and Views want to portray Islam in the truth, in the light of the truth. Now, of course, the truth is Jesus Christ, who said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by me. Hallelujah. And like we say all the time, Muslims call in here, and so many times they use deception in their arguments, knowingly. And we always say in our program, and I try to say it every time if I can, if what you have is the truth, why don't you just let facts be facts? And then when we present facts about what Muslims are doing in the world today, day after day, terrorist attacks, all sorts of violent acts and words and threats and deception, death threats even to this station for the programs that we produce talking about Islam, we present the facts. We don't try to color them. We present the facts, and then we give the evidence from the Quran, the life of Muhammad. We give the hadith. We give all of what Muslim commentators have said. And so we try to present Islam in the best sense, in the sense that this is what Muslims have said ever since the time of Muhammad. And Muhammad himself said, and it makes Muslims raving mad. Something's fishy there, something strange. Well, you be the judge what it is. Well, right now, why don't we go to the news? First article I'd like to share with you tonight. Republicans accuse the White House of sitting on the Fort Hood review. Very interesting. If you remember, President Barack Hussein Obama made sure in his brief speech when he first heard about the Fort Hood shooting not to jump to hasty conclusions about the motive, about who this is. Well, let's take a look at this very short article by Fox News. The White House has been sitting on a preliminary review of the Fort Hood shooting since the end of November and refuses to share its contents with Congress. I wonder why. You know, everyone's saying that Obama's a Muslim. Maybe you all have seen that if you go into YouTube, you type in something to the effect of Obama admits he's a Muslim, they have like a 9-minute, someone's put together 9 minutes worth of Obama essentially saying he's a Muslim, admitting his Muslim faith, quoting, as he says, from the Holy Quran, telling Muslims that they're wonderful, telling Muslims that America's no longer a Christian nation, all sorts of things that point to him being a Muslim. And then, of course, there's that famous incident. We tried to get it on video tonight. I don't know if we're going to have it, of Obama visiting the king in Saudi Arabia. Well, I don't know if you saw this, Brother Hamoudi. Maybe some of you saw it. But when Obama actually went to the king of Saudi Arabia, he walked up to him and bowed. Not just like this, but bowed all the way down. Of course, an American president never bows to a monarch, because the whole idea of the American Revolution was against the monarchy of England. And yet, when he went to the monarch of England, right, Queen Elizabeth, who is our ally, right, he goes and he bows something like this. Just like that. That's it. That's all he did. But when he went to the king of Saudi Arabia, full bow all the way down. Bowing to who? That's the title of this show, and should be bowing. Why are we bowing? Well, the United States government is definitely bowing to Islam, and I think this article talks about that. They, for whatever reason, maybe it's Obama's love of the Muslim religion, the fact that he certainly has no love for the evangelical Christian right. I don't know what it is, but they're doing their best to suppress the truth about the fact that Nidal Maliki al-Hassan, without a doubt, has been proven by this program, by Jesus or Muhammad, and by many other sources, that he was committing an act of jihad in the name of Islam, for Muhammad, for Islam, for Allah. and that this looks very bad on Islam, definitely. Well, it seems that the White House doesn't want it to come out that way. Let's read a little bit more of this article by Fox News. It says, the White House has been sitting on a preliminary review of the Fort Hood shooting since the end of November and refuses to share its contents with Congress, House Republicans say. Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee have been pressing the Obama administration to either provide a copy of the review or brief then on it, arguing that it's important for relevant members to be in the loop as the review goes forward. They're stonewalling us. That's a quote. They won't give us anything, Representative Mac Thornberry, Republican of Texas, told Fox News. They have just refused to brief Congress any further on the whole matter. Doesn't make sense to me. The National Security Council last month took control over informational briefings on the November 5th shooting rampage, which left 13 dead, actually 14. There was a child in the womb of one of the women that jihadists killed in the name of Islam, and dozens wounded at the Texas base. The preliminary report from intelligence agencies was due at the end of November. A White House spokesman said in an email Wednesday that the reason members of Congress has not been briefed on the report is because, and I quote, we're reviewing it. But Thornberry said the White House is obligated to share this information it has. He cited the National Security Act of 1947. I don't know if they don't like the information, if it's inconsistent with some sort of agenda, or they're just trying to keep a real tight hold and control it completely, he said. Oh, I think it's absolutely against their agenda to make Islam look good and to somehow or another offer a hand of friendship to Muslim nations to prove that they're not bigoted like the former administration who went to fight a war in Iraq. And now what is the Obama administration doing in Afghanistan? Very same thing. Well, anyways, debate has raged in Washington over whether law enforcement and intelligence circles missed obvious warning signs from Major Nidal Malik Hassan and over whether the attack should be considered an act of terrorism, Islamic terrorism. A task force overseen by the FBI learned last year of Hassan's repeated contact with radical cleric in Yemen. They don't know what to do. Here's this guy who was clearly an Islamic jihadist. Clearly, he had those tendencies, he had that leaning, he had those contacts, he's made threats, even to people in the army, and because of political correctness, and because foolish people like the Army General George Casey, who said that ridiculous statement that we shared on this program. Remember, he said something to the effect of as terrible a tragedy as this Fort Hood shooting was, it would be an even worse tragedy if we lost the diversity that we enjoy in the United States Army. What a ridiculous, foolish statement. Well, anyways, this is what's happening. Now everything's coming undone to see, hey, this foolish political correctness, this foolish agenda to somehow whitewash Islam and Muslims in the United States of America is costing lives of Americans, not just Americans. See, they don't even report sometimes on the Americans in the womb that are killed, 3,500 a day, call it abortion, but now American soldiers. So now people are starting to ask questions, and those who have an agenda to whitewash Islam, to praise Islam, to protect Muslims in the United States of America are getting nervous. Let's continue on. Amid the furor, the White House has urged Congress to hold off on its own investigations until the proper authorities complete their reviews. President Barack Hussein Obama in November asked lawmakers to resist the urge to turn a tragic event into, and I quote, a political theater. He is quite a political theater, Barack Hussein Obama, by the way. It's called a horror film. You ever heard of it? It's a horror film is what that is. But Republican Pete Hoekstra, representative of Michigan, ranking Republican on the Intelligence Committee, has led the charge to make sure lawmakers are at least in the loop. Anyhow, it says we don't know why they're blocking the report. The goal here ultimately has to be preventing a recurrence of this. Well, I should say so. But very interesting. Here we are. Not only that, the very next article I want to share is entitled this. This may have been the most dangerous year since 9/11, anti-terrorism experts say. The United States of America in the year 2009 has seen more Islamic terrorist attacks, or those attacks foiled, than any year since 2001. And I want to read just a little bit to remind our viewers of the repeated not isolated, as Muslims call it and like to claim, the repeated acts or attempted acts of terror, of murder, of violence, of killing, of espionage against the United States of America, done in the name of Islam, done in the name of jihad, done for Muhammad's sake, done according to the Quran, the Hadith, and the teachings of the Prophet of Islam. The Obama administration, grappling with a spate of recent Islamic terrorism cases on U.S. soil, has concluded, this is their conclusion, now this takes an administration, has concluded that the country confronts a rising threat from homegrown extremism. How could they ever come up with that? Those guys must be rocket scientists. It's about time, Obama. Anti-terrorism officials and experts see signs of accelerated radicalization among American Muslims driven by a wave of English-language online propaganda and reflected in aspiring fighters' trips to hotspots such as Pakistan and Somalia. It says that Europe has been viewed as the front line of terrorism, but no more. Now the United States is having as many or more attempts in 2009 than others. Look what it says here. There were major arrests. It outlines some of the things that have happened in the last year. There were major arrests of Americans accused of plotting with Al-Qaeda and its allies, including an Afghan American charged in New York, a New York bomb plot described as the most serious threat in the country since September 11th attack. That's Najibullah Zazi, our Afghan friend who says, oh, I got nothing to do with terrorism. Right. I'm a good Muslim. I love America. Look out, folks, when they say they're a good Muslim. When they have the long beard, when they wear the dish dasher or the thobe, look out. Look out. All right. Authorities tracked other extremist suspects joining foreign networks, including Somali Americans, going to the battlegrounds of their ancestral homeland, and Albanian Americans from Brooklyn who was arrested in Kosovo. What's the common denominator? You got Afghanis, Pakistanis, we're going to see Saudis, all sorts of groups, Albanians, Somalis. What's the common denominator? Islam. The religion of Islam is the common denominator to all of these acts of terrorists and these terrorist attempts. The FBI rounded up homegrown terrorism suspects in Dallas, that's Dallas, Texas, Detroit, Michigan, Raleigh, North Carolina, saying that it had broken up plots targeting a synagogue, government buildings, and military facilities. Last week, Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano issued her strongest public comments yet on the homegrown threat. It's about time she's issued something. The last I heard, she was worried about Republicans was the biggest threat to the United States of America.
They might start telling people about Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. Well, finally they decided that it would be worse for Muslims to kill Americans than for Christians to save them. I think they've finally come to that conclusion. I hope so. It says here, Army Major, it says, we've seen, Janet Napolitano, we've seen an increased number of arrests here in the United States of individuals suspected of plotting terrorist attacks or supporting terror groups abroad such as Al-Qaeda, Napolitano said in a speech in New York. Home-based terrorism is here, and like violent extremism abroad, it will be a part of the threat picture that we must now confront. Then it goes on to talk about Nidal Malik Hassan killing 13 people, 14 actually in Fort Hood shooting. It says a previous attack on the U.S. military, a shooting in June by an American convert to what? To Islam, who killed a soldier and wounded another at an Arkansas recruiting center. And then it says, it goes on to say that the American government is finally discovering, finally learning a little bit, just a tiny bit of what people like myself, Brother Hamoudi and others have been saying for years, that Islam is the problem. But they're not willing to say that because that's just too inflammatory. That's too politically incorrect. And, you know, one of the things that they've been saying all along was, well, you know, this has nothing to do with Islam. It's just poor Muslims who don't have anything else to do. They don't have anything to eat. You know, they don't have any hope. And so it's easy for those people to go and commit suicide bombing. But let's take a